No child is born to hate. They learn it from us. But they can also teach us how to heal. She thought her daughter was in danger. But the real danger was her own hate. Emily was laughing, really laughing. The kind of laugh that only children have when they feel completely free. Beside her was Malik, a chubby black boy with kind eyes and a big heart. He made her laugh more than anyone else. They were spinning in circles, falling on the grass, faces full of joy. But someone didn't find it joyful. Someone was watching them from across the street. Her name was Victoria, Emily's mother. A woman of pride, image, and cold manners. She stared at the scene like it was a nightmare. Her beautiful daughter, playing with a fat black boy. Her chest tightened. Her hands clenched. She stepped forward, fast and angry. Emily didn't notice. Malik didn't either. He had just picked a small flower to give her. Just a simple act of friendship. But before he could speak, Victoria's voice cut through the park like a blade. "Get away from my daughter." The words were sharp, loud, meant to hurt. Malik froze, confused. Emily blinked, scared. The mother didn't stop there. "Don't touch her. Don't come near her. You filthy little..." Gasps came from nearby. People turned to look. But no one said a word. Malik's hand dropped. The flower hit the ground. His smile faded. Tears filled his eyes, but he didn't speak. He simply turned and walked away. What Victoria didn't know was that the same boy she just crushed with her hate would one day be the reason her daughter lived. Malik walked away slowly. His little hands were shaking. His heart felt heavy, but he didn't want to cry. Not in front of all those people. He had never been shouted at like that before. Not for playing. Not for being kind. And especially, not because of his skin. Emily stood still, confused. Her eyes moved between her mother and Malik. She didn't understand. Just moments ago, everything felt perfect. But now, her mother's face was full of rage, and her best friend was walking away, hurt and silent. Victoria dragged Emily by the arm, telling her never to speak to that boy again. She called him dirty, poor, and dangerous. Emily protested softly, but her mother wouldn't listen. Her voice was final, cold, loud enough for others to hear. A few parents turned their heads. Some shook their heads in quiet disapproval, but no one said anything. Just silence. Just stares. Malik didn't run. He walked all the way home alone, holding back tears. When he reached his small house, he sat outside on the porch. His mom opened the door, surprised to see him back so early. She noticed something was wrong, but he didn't speak. He just looked at the ground. Later that evening, Emily sat on her bed, hugging her pillow. Her mother was downstairs on a phone call, laughing with friends like nothing happened. But Emily was hurt and confused. "Why can't I play with Malik?" she whispered to herself. She missed him already. At school the next day, things got worse. A few kids who saw the scene at the park started teasing Malik. One boy called him trash boy. Another said, "Don't touch me, or your dirt will spread." The words stung. Malik didn't answer. He just took the pain silently. Even the teachers looked away, avoiding the tension. Emily sat in the same class. She saw everything, but she didn't say a word. She wanted to, but her mother's voice still echoed in her head. She was scared, so she watched as Malik was pushed, mocked, and isolated. Her heart broke, but she stayed quiet. Malik started eating alone during lunch. He kept to himself. His smile disappeared. His drawings, once full of color, turned gray and empty. But he never complained. At home, his mother noticed the change, and finally, one night, he broke down in tears. He told her everything. Every word. Every insult. Every silence. His mother didn't cry. She just held him close. She whispered, "You're not what they say. You're kind. You're strong. And one day, the world will see it." Malik nodded slowly, but deep down, he wasn't sure. The world didn't feel kind. It felt cruel. And the one person who once saw him as a friend had now disappeared into silence. What he didn't know was that life had a strange way of turning pain into purpose, and that a day would come when the world would see exactly who he was. Time passed, but the pain remained. At school, Malik kept his head down. He walked the hallways like a shadow. He was no longer the joyful boy who played in the park. He was quieter now, distant, lonely. But at home, his mother tried to keep him strong. She packed his favorite lunches. She hugged him tighter. She reminded him every night, "You are worthy, my son. You are more than what they say." Malik listened. He nodded. But deep down, he still felt broken. Meanwhile, Emily wasn't doing much better. Her smile faded. She didn't enjoy school the way she used to. Every time she saw Malik sitting alone in the cafeteria, her chest tightened. She wanted to talk to him, to say sorry. But her mother's words kept repeating in her mind. He's not your kind. Stay away. Emily tried to talk to her mom about it once. Why can't I be friends with Malik? She asked gently over dinner. Victoria looked up from her plate, startled. Because he's not like us, she said flatly. People will judge you. And I won't have that. Emily looked down. Her appetite vanished. Victoria was the kind of mother who cared more about image than emotion. Their house was spotless, their clothes perfect, their smiles rehearsed. But behind closed doors, there was distance. Her husband had left years ago. Since then, it was just her and Emily, and Victoria ruled with control, not compassion. In contrast, Malik's home was small, but full of love. His mother worked 2 jobs, but never missed dinner. They laughed over simple things. They prayed together. They told stories before bed. There was no wealth, but there was warmth. One evening, Malik saw Emily outside a grocery store. Their eyes met for a second. She looked nervous, unsure. He gave a small smile. But before she could react, Victoria came out of the store, saw them, and immediately pulled Emily away. Emily looked back, but said nothing. That night, she cried under her blanket. She missed her friend, but she was too afraid to stand up to her mother. Back in his room, Malik stared at the ceiling, wondering if things would ever change. He didn't hate Emily. He didn't even hate her mother. He just wanted to be seen, not as a color or a shape, but as a person. What neither of them knew was that life was quietly preparing a moment that would force the truth out into the open, a moment that would test not just friendship, but humanity. It was a cloudy Friday afternoon. Emily had stayed late after school for art club. Her mother couldn't pick her up, so the housemaid, Rosa, was sent instead. Rosa was kind and soft-spoken. Emily liked her. As they walked down the sidewalk toward the bus stop, the sky grew darker. The wind picked up. Distant thunder rumbled. Just as they reached the corner of the street, the world turned loud. A truck came speeding around the bend, too fast. The driver lost control. Brakes screamed. Tires skidded. People shouted. But there was no time. The truck jumped the curb. Emily froze. Rosa screamed and pushed Emily as hard as she could. Just seconds before the truck crashed into the sidewalk. Everything went silent. When Emily opened her eyes, she was lying on the ground. Blood was on her clothes. She couldn't move her legs. Rosa was unconscious nearby, injured badly. People rushed in. Phones came out. Sirens approached. The ambulance came fast. Paramedics worked quickly. Emily's eyes were closing. She was slipping away. In the chaos, no one noticed Malik across the street, holding a bag of groceries. He had seen it all. His heart pounded in his chest. Without thinking, he dropped everything and ran. Emily was rushed to the nearest hospital. Victoria arrived minutes later, panicked, shaking. She pushed past nurses and begged to see her daughter. When she finally saw Emily, she broke. Tubes were in her arms. Her face was pale, her body still. The doctor came in with a serious face. She's lost a lot of blood, he said. And her blood type is AB negative. Very rare. We need a donor, fast. Victoria nodded. Use mine. Whatever she needs. But when they checked, she wasn't a match. Neither were any relatives. The hospital sent out an emergency call. Every second mattered. Back at the front desk, a nurse received a response. A match had been found. Nearby. Same town. It was Malik. When he heard about the call at the community center, he stepped forward without hesitation. His mother looked at him, worried, but he nodded firmly. She was my friend, he said quietly. She still is. They rushed him to the hospital. Nurses prepped him. He was calm, quiet, brave. In the waiting room, Victoria was pacing when the doctor returned. We found a donor, he said. She looked up, relieved. Then he said the name. Victoria froze. Who? Malik Thompson. The boy from the park. He's the only match. The words hit her like a slap. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Her mind spun. The same boy she had insulted, humiliated, rejected, was now about to save her daughter's life. She stood still, face pale, hands shaking. She whispered, "No. There must be someone else." "There isn't," the doctor replied firmly. "And we're running out of time." She closed her eyes. All her pride, her hate, her judgment, none of it mattered now. Her daughter's life was slipping away, and the only person who could save her was the boy she had once called filthy. And still, even now, he was willing to help. Malik was led into a small, clean room. Nurses spoke gently to him. They explained the process, but he wasn't nervous. He just nodded and smiled weakly. His mother sat beside him, holding his hand. "You don't have to do this," she said softly, trying to be strong. Malik looked into her eyes and shook his head. "She would have done it for me, if she was allowed." His mother blinked back tears. She kissed his forehead. Meanwhile, Victoria sat in a hospital hallway, silent. Her pride had shattered. She didn't know how to feel. Shame, guilt, fear. The same boy she had insulted in front of everyone was now lying in a hospital bed, offering to save her daughter's life. No one had forced him. He simply chose kindness. A nurse came in. "The donation has begun," she said gently. Victoria nodded, unable to speak. Inside the donation room, Malik looked calm. As the blood flowed through the tube, he closed his eyes and thought of the park. Of the day Emily laughed beside him. Of the flower he never got to give her. Now, in a strange way, he was giving her something even bigger. The transfusion worked. Emily's condition began to improve. Slowly, her breathing stabilized. The bleeding stopped. Her heartbeat grew stronger. Doctors smiled. Nurses sighed in relief. When she finally opened her eyes, her mother was sitting beside her, crying softly. Emily whispered, "What happened?" Victoria took her hand. "You were in an accident," she said, her voice shaking. You almost didn't make it." Emily looked around. "Who saved me?" Victoria looked away for a moment. Her lips trembled. Then she whispered, "Malik." Emily blinked in shock. "Malik?" Victoria nodded. "He gave you his blood. He saved your life." Tears filled Emily's eyes. "Where is he?" A few hours later, Malik was sitting up in his hospital bed, tired but smiling. He was sipping juice when Emily entered the room, walking slowly with help from a nurse. Their eyes met. For a moment, everything else disappeared. Emily walked over and sat beside him. Her lips trembled. "You saved me." Malik gave a small smile. "We're friends, remember?" Emily burst into tears and hugged him. Outside the room, Victoria stood in the hallway. She watched the scene through the glass. Her chest ached, not from anger, but from the deep realization of her own cruelty. This boy, this child, had more love in his heart than she ever had. She wiped her tears quietly, not ready to face him yet, but something inside her had begun to shift. Emily stayed beside Malik for a long time. They talked quietly, their voices soft and full of emotion. It wasn't like before. This time, there was a deeper bond, something built not just on laughter, but on truth, pain, and sacrifice. Victoria finally stepped into the room. The moment she entered, silence fell. Malik looked at her, unsure. Emily looked at her too, her eyes wide. Victoria stood still for a moment. Her hands trembled slightly. She had rehearsed her words in the hallway, but now, nothing came out. She looked at Malik, and for the first time, really saw him. Not as a black boy, not as a poor child, but as a brave soul, a gentle heart, a boy who had every reason to walk away, but didn't. Her voice cracked. "Malik," he didn't say anything. She stepped closer, her eyes filled with tears. "I was wrong," she whispered. "So wrong." The room was still. "I judged you because of your skin, your weight, where you came from. I said things that no child should ever hear. And yet, you saved my daughter's life." She fell to her knees. "I don't deserve your kindness, but I'm begging for your forgiveness." Malik looked at her. Slowly, he got up and walked to her. He gently helped her stand. "I forgive you," he said quietly. Victoria broke down, sobbing. Outside the room, a nurse who had witnessed everything couldn't hold back her tears. She whispered to a colleague, "I've never seen anything like this." The story began to spread. Hospital staff, parents at Emily's school, even neighbors started talking. The same people who had seen Victoria humiliate Malik were now seeing her publicly apologize. The town began to change. Teachers who once looked away began standing up for students who were bullied. Emily spoke openly about what happened. So did her mother. Victoria joined a local community program focused on equality and anti-racism. She told her story, not to gain praise, but to warn others about the poison of hate. At Emily's school, Malik was no longer alone. He made new friends. He smiled again. He drew colorful pictures again. Emily walked beside him, proud to call him her best friend. And Victoria? She changed. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Because that day in the hospital, when she saw her daughter nearly die, she also saw the truth. That kindness has no color. And that sometimes the people we look down on are the ones who lift us the highest. Months passed. The seasons changed, but so did hearts. Victoria was no longer the woman she once was. The sharp tone in her voice softened. Her eyes no longer scanned people with judgment. Instead, they searched for understanding. She had become active in her community, visiting schools, joining open talks, even attending neighborhood events she once would have avoided. She shared her story, not as a victim, but as someone who had been blind and then finally learned to see. She spoke to parents, warning them how racism isn't always loud. It's often quiet, whispered at dinner tables, taught through silence. "My hate nearly cost me my daughter," she said during one community speech. And the boy I feared became her hero. People listened. Some cried. Many began to reflect. Emily grew stronger too. She stood beside Malik now, not just in friendship, but in defense. When other kids were bullied for being different, she spoke up. She never stayed silent again. And Malik? He began to shine. His teachers noticed his talent for art. He started winning contests. He joined a local youth group. He laughed again. He played again. He believed again. At Emily's next birthday, something beautiful happened. Victoria invited Malik and his mother to their home. It wasn't for show. It was from the heart. The same house that once held judgment now welcomed warmth. Neighbors gathered. Emily stood proudly beside Malik and introduced him. "This is my best friend. He saved my life." Victoria stood up too. She took the microphone and looked at the crowd. "I once told my daughter not to play with him," she said honestly. "But today, I'm honored to call him part of our family." There was silence, followed by applause. That night, Emily and Malik danced under the garden lights. Music played. People laughed. There were no walls. No lines. Just unity. Later, as the guests left, Malik sat under a tree, watching the stars. Victoria came and sat beside him. For a moment, they just stared at the sky. Then she said softly, "Thank you for saving me too." Malik looked at her, puzzled. "I didn't save you." She smiled. "Yes, you did. You saved me from myself." Sometimes hate is loud. Sometimes it hides behind smiles. But love, real love, always reveals itself when it's needed most. And the ones we judge are often the ones who carry the biggest hearts. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think, even for a moment, then don't forget to support us by subscribing. Your one click helps us share more stories that open eyes, heal hearts, and remind us what it means to be human. Hit that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes, a story is more than just a story. It's a mirror, and it might just change a life. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe now. Because kindness is contagious.